So picture this. You are standing right in the middle of this massive, sprawling home improvement showroom.
Oh, yeah. The ones with the giant warehouse lighting.
Exactly. And you are just completely mesmerized. I mean, you're running your hands over these beautiful rustic brick samples, right? Noting that rough, historic texture.
Right. Getting completely sold on the aesthetic.
Totally. And then you walk over and look at these incredibly sleek, polished concrete slabs. And if you are anything like the rest of us, you are just feeling entirely, completely overwhelmed.
Because every single option looks like the one.
Yes. You can like easily picture the summer family barbecues on that brick patio, and you can see the kids drawing with sidewalk chalk on that pristine concrete driveway.
It all looks perfect in the showroom.
It really does. Until, that is, you stop looking at the aesthetics and you consider the actual price tag and, face the looming, somewhat terrifying reality of a decade's worth of weekend maintenance.
Yeah, it is remarkably easy to get swept away by the visual appeal when you're standing in a pristine, climate-controlled showroom. I mean, we are naturally drawn to things that have a specific charm or uh, evoke a certain historical feeling.
Right, that old world vibe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But out in the harsh elements, charm does not hold up a 2-ton vehicle, and aesthetic appeal definitely doesn't stop weeds from destroying your foundation.
Which is exactly what we're getting into today. We are doing a deep dive into the literal groundwork of your home. We're pulling technical insights, engineering breakdowns, and actual project notes directly from the contractors and experts at 479 Concrete Fort Smith.
Some really fantastic eye-opening data in those notes.
Oh, completely. So our mission for this deep dive is to shortcut your research process. We're stripping away all those aesthetic distractions you find in the glossy brochures, and we're going to look at the literal bones of residential hardscaping.
Getting down to the science of it all.
Right. We are exploring the hidden physics, the environmental chemistry, and the harsh financial realities of choosing between brick and concrete for your driveways and patios. So, okay, let's unpack this, because choosing a foundation isn't just about picking a pretty color. It's about figuring out exactly how much weekend weeding you want to be doing 3 years from now.
I love that. And, before we can even begin to calculate the load-bearing capacity of a massive driveway or the thermal properties of a sprawling backyard patio, we really have to look at the microscopic reality of the materials you are actually putting into the ground.
The actual building blocks.
Right. Because the consumer market uses the word brick as a blanket term, and honestly, it is doing a massive disservice to homeowners. The word itself is highly misleading.
Yeah, reading through these notes, I realized I had a massive misconception about that exact word. I genuinely thought a brick was, well, just a brick.
Most people do.
But comparing traditional clay bricks to modern concrete bricks is basically like comparing a timeless, high-end, bespoke suit to off-the-rack fast fashion.
That is a perfect analogy.
Right. I mean, they might look surprisingly similar on day one when you take them out of the box and lay them side by side, but time and weather are going to quickly reveal the truth of how they were manufactured.
Yeah, let's break down that manufacturing process because that is where the true divergence happens. When we talk about traditional clay bricks, we are talking about the heavy hitters of architectural history.
The stuff that lasts forever.
Exactly. These are formed from natural earth, extruded, and then kiln-fired at extreme temperatures. I mean, often upwards of 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, wow. 2,000 degrees.
Right. And the crucial chemical detail here is that their color is the result of mineral reactions. So like iron oxide reacting to that intense heat. The color is permanently baked into the molecular structure of the material itself.
So it's not just painted on.
No, not at all. It physically cannot fade. As the years go by, subjected to rain and ultraviolet light, they don't look old. They just get distinguished.
Like a good leather jacket.
Exactly. And because of that structural integrity, a true clay block can last well over a century.
But then you have concrete bricks, which are the fast fashion of the masonry world. I mean, the notes say they skip the kiln entirely.
They do. Concrete bricks, which are often sold as concrete pavers, are entirely different structurally. They are not fired earth. They are just molded aggregate.
An aggregate is just rocks and sand.
Right. A mix of small rocks and sand bound together with cement and water. And manufacturers love them because they are highly uniform, perfectly shaped, and much easier for a contractor to lay down quickly.
Makes sense. But there's a catch.
A big catch. The color. The color in a concrete brick isn't an inherent chemical property of the material. It is just a synthetic pigment that has been added to the mix They are essentially dyeing the concrete.
And the source material highlights exactly why that chemical difference matters for you, the homeowner, over the long haul, because the sun does not care about your synthetic pigment.
Not even a little bit.
Right. Ultraviolet light actively breaks down the chemical bonds of those added dyes. So after a decade of harsh, direct sunlight, that gorgeous, deep charcoal concrete brick you picked out to match your modern trim it's going to soften and fade into a light, dusty gray.
It's inevitable.
So if your heart is absolutely set on that authentic, historical old Charleston look, you have to use true kiln-fired clay bricks. But that authenticity comes with a very steep price tag, both in material costs and the highly specialized labor required to install them.
Which naturally pushes a lot of budget-conscious homeowners toward concrete bricks.
Yeah.
But the material composition and the fading pigment are really only the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, there's more.
Oh, yeah. Because a single clay brick's durability is genuinely impressive on its own. I mean, you could drop it, freeze it, heat it, and it survives.
Right.
But you aren't just putting one brick on a pedestal in your yard to admire it. You are scaling that up to cover hundreds of square feet of surface area. And when you multiply that single unit to create, say, a driveway, the physics of the situation completely change.
Okay, let me push back on the driveway aspect for a second, because I am struggling to reconcile this. A sweeping, winding brick driveway looks incredibly luxurious.
Oh, visually, it's stunning.
It screams high-end real estate and old money. If clay brick is one of the most durable, time-tested materials on the planet, why do these professional contractors at 479 Concrete actually steer people away from using them for heavy traffic driveways?
That's a great question. And it comes down to structural mechanics and really the behavior of the earth beneath the material.
Yeah.
The vulnerability isn't the brick itself.
Okay, so what is it?
The vulnerability is the fact that a driveway made of bricks is essentially a collection of thousands of individual, disconnected masonry units just resting on the soil.
Ah, I see where this is going.
Right. Over time, the earth beneath them is guaranteed to shift. Soil settles unevenly, moisture penetrates the ground, and in colder climates, that moisture goes through freezing and thawing cycles.
And water expands when it freezes.
Exactly, which heaves the soil upward. Then, when it thaws, the soil drops back down.
Leaving you with a surface where one brick dips 1/4 of an inch and another one right next to it gets pushed up by a growing oak tree root.
Yes.
And suddenly your luxury entrance is just an expensive, uneven tripping hazard.
Now, introduce a large SUV or a pickup truck into that equation.
Oh, man.
Right. A vehicle weighing 4,000 to 5,000 pounds concentrates all of that downward force onto 4 relatively small contact patches where the tires meet the ground.
And if that ground is made of individual bricks,
Then all that mechanical stress is isolated on just a handful of disconnected units. The sheer downward pressure forces those specific blocks deeper into the shifting soil, while the bricks right around them stay put.
so it just creates ruts.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
But poured concrete behaves in a completely different manner. When you pour a continuous concrete driveway, you are creating what structural engineers refer to as a monolithic structure.
Okay, my brain just clicked with this when I read it. A monolithic structure meaning it functions as one single, continuous, unified piece. It's the difference between standing on a snowbank in high heels versus standing on that exact same snowbank wearing snowshoes.
That is a brilliant analogy.
Right, like the weight of the person is exactly the same, but the high heel concentrates the force into one tiny point and you sink immediately. But the snowshoe displaces that mechanical stress across a massive surface area, keeping you on top.
It perfectly illustrates the physics of a poured slab. When that heavy SUV rolls onto a poured concrete driveway, the weight doesn't just press down on the square inches beneath the tire.
It spreads out.
Yes. The monolithic slab distributes that massive load across the entire surface area of the driveway. It utilizes the entire footprint to resist the downward force, which makes it infinitely more stable for bearing heavy loads over decades.
And the financial breakdown provided in the project notes is just as stark as the physics. I mean, standard concrete installation is going to run between $8 and $12 per square foot.
Which is very reasonable.
Yeah. Meanwhile, laying individual brick pavers starts around $15 a square foot. And depending on the specific clay material and the specialized labor required to literally level thousands of individual pieces, that can easily climb over $30 a square foot.
It gets expensive very quickly. And when you multiply those numbers across a standard 2- or 3-car driveway, you are talking about a difference of tens of thousands of dollars.
For a surface that is ultimately less structurally sound for vehicles?
Exactly. It's a huge premium for a structural disadvantage.
Here is where it gets incredibly clever, though, because you don't actually have to sacrifice the luxury aesthetic to get the structural benefits of the monolithic slab.
No, you don't.
Modern poured concrete isn't just that boring institutional gray sidewalk material anymore. The contractors point out that you can stamp it and stain it while it's wet.
Right. Decorative concrete.
Yeah, a skilled contractor can make a freshly poured, continuous concrete driveway perfectly mimic the visual texture of weathered brick or natural slate or even Belgian block.
It's a remarkable engineering workaround.
You get the visual appeal of high-end masonry, but you completely bypass the structural nightmare of having thousands of shifting pieces.
You retain that monolithic load-bearing capacity while co-opting the aesthetic warmth of individual masonry units. It's really the best of both worlds.
Totally.
But, we need to shift our focus here because the engineering demands change drastically when we move from the front yard to the backyard.
Okay, yeah. Patios.
Right. We've solved for the brutal, downward mechanical force of a 2-ton SUV. But when you step off that driveway and onto a patio, the enemy changes. We move from mechanical weight to thermal energy and organic life.
Because patios are all about human habitation. It's where you take your shoes off, let the dog run around, just relax. And ever since I read these contractor notes, I haven't been able to unsee this one detail.
Oh, I know you're going to say.
Think of the microscopic gaps between traditional patio bricks as a VIP invitation for nature to actively reclaim your yard.
It is so true.
I don't care how tightly a mason lays those bricks or how much polymeric sand they sweep into the joints. Those tiny spaces are vulnerable. They fill with dirt, which invites ants, which invites moss.
And then come the weeds.
Yes, you get those incredibly stubborn weeds that somehow manage to grow back exactly 20 minutes after you spend your entire Saturday morning pulling them.
It is a constant, unending battle against entropy. Every single joint between a brick is a breach in your foundation's armor. This is exactly why poured patio concrete should be viewed as a functional upgrade, not a budget compromise.
That's a great way to put it.
A professionally poured continuous slab completely eliminates those gaps. It provides a seamless, uninterrupted transition from your back door, past the seating area, right up to the grill.
You eliminate the trip hazard.
Yes, and you entirely remove the ecosystem that allows weeds to take root.
It's not just about saving your weekends from weeding, though. The physical comfort level is genuinely dictated by the materials you choose.
Absolutely. We have to talk about the thermal dynamics at play here.
Oh, the barefoot science.
Exactly. Consider the intense, inescapable heat of a southern summer afternoon. Basic thermodynamics tells us that dark colors absorb light energy and convert it into thermal energy.
Right.
So a dark red, traditional play brick patio absorbs that midday sun and acts as a thermal mass. It turns into a literal frying pan. And worse, it retains that heat long into the evening, radiating it back up at you while you are just trying to enjoy dinner outside.
Which sounds miserable.
It really is. But concrete is naturally lighter in color and denser in a different way. It reflects significantly more solar radiation rather than absorbing it.
So it completely changes the barefoot science of your backyard, saving your bare feet from blistering in July.
Exactly.
And if you are worried that a poured slab is going to look a little too plain or industrial next to your lush landscaping, the experts note you have so many textural options.
Oh, there are endless options now.
Yeah, you can ask for a salt finish, where rock salt is pressed into the wet concrete and then washed away to leave these subtle, natural-looking pits, or an exposed aggregate finish, which reveals the small stones within the mix.
Both of those are gorgeous.
They give the concrete a high-end, tactile texture that still stays physically cool under the sun. It's fascinating, actually, that the sources referenced Bob Villa's guides on this.
Yeah, the DIY angle.
Right. The guides point out that, sure, if a single brick paver cracks, a DIY homeowner can easily pull it up and drop a new one in. But a well-poured, properly sealed concrete patio rarely ever requires that kind of surgical intervention.
It's incredibly low maintenance.
You seal it once every 3 to 5 years, and otherwise you just get to live on it.
But that phrase you just used, well poured, that is the critical variable that makes or breaks this entire discussion.
How so?
Well, we have been talking theoretically about engineering the perfect surface, but what happens when the literal earth and air around that surface are actively trying to destroy the chemistry of your concrete?
Oh, the environmental factor.
Right. This brings us to the unique environmental challenges of building in a climate like the Palmetto State, South Carolina.
I have to admit, the chemistry aspect in the notes completely upended my understanding of construction. My mental model of concrete was basically just mixing gray powder and water, pouring it into a square, and waiting for it to dry out in the sun.
You and almost everyone else.
Right. So why does the geographical location matter so much? Why is a place like South Carolina considered notoriously difficult for contractors?
That mental model of it just drying is the most common misconception in home improvement. Concrete does not simply dry the way a puddle of water dries up in the sun, or, the way paint dries on a wall.
Okay, so what is actually happening?
Concrete cures through a highly complex exothermic chemical reaction called hydration.
Hydration. So water is the catalyst.
Exactly. When water meets cement, microscopic crystals actually begin to grow and interlock, binding the sand and gravel together.
Oh, wow. Crystals.
Yes. But that chemical reaction is highly sensitive to the surrounding environment. And the environment in South Carolina is an absolute nightmare for this process.
Because it's so wet.
You are dealing with sandy, highly shifty, continuously wet soil, combined with oppressive, heavy atmospheric humidity.
So the ground beneath the concrete is basically moving and wet all the time.
Which means the subgrade preparation, the excavation, the compacting, the gravel base that's laid down before a single drop of concrete is poured is actually 90% of the job. You have to stabilize that shifty soil.
Okay, I get the soil part.
But the humid air above the pour is just as dangerous as the shifty soil below it. When the dew point is exceptionally high, moisture doesn't just hang heavily in the air, it sits in the ground and interacts with the slabs.
Wait, if hydration requires water, but you have too much moisture in the air and the ground, how do you fight that? I mean, you can't put a giant dehumidifier over a driveway.
You fight it by manipulating the chemistry of the mix itself. Professional contractors use very specific palmetto concrete blends. They introduce specialized chemical additives, like retarding agents, directly into the concrete truck.
So they chemically slow it down.
Precisely. These additives intentionally slow down the hydration timeline. They manage how the internal moisture vapor interacts with the curing slab so the concrete doesn't set too quickly on the surface while remaining soft underneath.
And if you don't do that?
Well, if you don't use these localized blends, say, an amateur just buys standard bags of mix from a big box store and adds water on a humid day, the slab will literally sweat.
Ugh. The notes mentioned delamination happening in these humid environments, which sounds catastrophic.
It is the death of a driveway.
Literally.
Literally. Delamination occurs when the top surface of the concrete cures and hardens too fast because of the ambient temperature, but the moisture trapped in the wet concrete below is still trying to evaporate and escape.
Oh, I see. It gets trapped under a hard crust.
Right. That trapped moisture vapor builds upward pressure against the hardened crust until the chemical bonds fail, and the top layer of your driveway literally flakes or pops off.
Wow. So getting the chemistry wrong isn't just a matter of the concrete looking a little dull.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It is the difference between a brittle surface that starts cracking, popping, and failing in 2 years versus a properly engineered, chemically balanced slab that easily lasts its expected 25 to 30 years. Assuming, of course, you do your part to seal it and protect it from UV rays and moisture penetration over the decades.
It really is a massive chemistry experiment happening right in your front yard, which highlights the most crucial point in our deep dive.
Which is?
All of this advanced chemistry, all of this physics regarding monolithic weight distribution, it is completely useless if the human being executing the pour decides to cut corners.
Oh, absolutely.
So how do you protect yourself from hiring a bad contractor who is going to ruin the chemistry?
When a contractor hands you an estimate, you need to understand exactly what you are paying for. The lowest number on the paper is rarely the best choice in masonry, because you are usually paying for a lack of structural integrity.
The notes are adamant about this, too. Stop looking for the cheapest quote. The cheap guy is almost always cheap because they are skipping the vital base layer preparation, or worse.
Watering down the mix.
Yes. Watering down the concrete mix on site to make it stretch further, which completely dilutes and ruins the chemical bonds of that hydration process you mentioned.
You have to interrogate the reinforcement strategy, because concrete has incredible compressive strength, meaning it can hold an immense amount of weight pushing directly down on it.
Right, like the SUV.
But it has incredibly low tensile strength, meaning it is very weak when pulled apart or bent.
Okay, another light bulb moment for me. If I take a piece of thick blackboard chalk and I squeeze it in my fist as hard as I can't crush it.
Because it has great compressive strength.
Exactly. But if I hold the two ends of that same chalk and just bend it in the middle, It snaps instantly. It has terrible tensile strength.
That is exactly how an unreinforced concrete slab behaves. If the soil washes away under the middle of your driveway, creating a hidden void, and your car drives over that hollow spot, the concrete bends into the void and snaps just like the chalk.
So how do you fix that?
To give concrete tensile strength, you have to give it a skeleton. You must ask the contractor, are they using steel rebar grids? Are they mixing synthetic fiber mesh directly into the wet concrete to bind it internally?
Or both.
Or for heavy-duty job, both, yes.
Right.
Furthermore, you need to ask about the PSI, the pounds per square inch rating of the mix they plan to use. If a contractor looks at you blankly when you ask about the PSI for your driveway, you need to walk away immediately.
Run, don't walk.
Exactly.
Then there is the drainage aspect. The notes call water the ultimate enemy of construction.
Because if water pools on or around your concrete, it will eventually seep in, degrade the subgrade, and crack the slab from the bottom up. A patio or a driveway requires a highly precise 1 to 2% slope directing water away from your home's foundation.
And you can't just guess that.
No, this isn't something a contractor can just eyeball with a piece of wood. They need to mathematically verify that slope using precision laser levels before the concrete truck ever arrives.
Because if they get that slope wrong, you aren't building a beautiful relaxation spot. You are literally building a concrete funnel that directs rainwater straight into your basement.
And for anyone listening who wants to verify their contractor standards, the sources point to the National Ready Mixed Concrete Association, the NRMCA. It is the ultimate resource for vetting builders and understanding exactly what technical standards your local environment demands.
That is such a great resource. So what does this all mean for you, the homeowner still standing there staring at those samples in the showroom?
It comes down to lifestyle.
Right. The synthesis of all this research is surprisingly clear. Bricks are incredible pieces of history. They possess this timeless soul and permanent color that makes them absolutely perfect for garden borders, decorative accents, and historic home restorations.
They absolutely have their place.
But for the heavy lifting of modern life, the places where you park your massive vehicles, where your kids play, and where you entertain guests, concrete is the undisputed champion. It wins on load-bearing physics, it wins on long-term durability, and it drastically cuts down on your maintenance. Make the choice that lets you actually enjoy your home on a Saturday afternoon instead of endlessly weeding and repairing it.
I couldn't agree more. And I want to leave you with a completely different way to look at this material the next time you walk around your city.
Oh, I like this.
Think about the urban heat island effect. We talked about how dark bricks act as thermal masses, soaking up heat and baking your bare feet. Now scale that up to an entire neighborhood or an entire city grid. The materials we choose to pave our driveways, patios, and streets literally dictate the microclimate of our environments. The next time you feel the oppressive heat radiating off a dark, decorative brick plaza at night, ask yourself how much cooler that entire block would be if they had utilized the reflective, thermal-deflecting chemistry of lighter concrete. Your backyard choices don't just affect your weekend weeding, they might just be turning the temperature dial on your entire neighborhood.